Oh, and thank you for tuning in to Dr. Slaton Live and the Brain's Body, the ultimate experience, right? And I want to talk about why you're here and why I'm here today, right? Because it always starts with a talk to the brain, okay? When I say talk to the brain, I mean that the brain is a social organ. And so don't think that we can't make sense of each other through this distance communication between you and I. And I say again, talk to the brain because the brain is a social organ. And I want you to understand that when you talk to the brain, that's the contact that you're releasing, that I'm releasing, right? And then the interaction, the brain takes over, right? Because that's what you're searching for, that sense of feel for self, to understand what is going on inside of you, which is the brain, and what the brain is trying to do, right? As you move through these things that we're talking about. Today, I'm going to talk about three things that are very, very critical to why I began to practice education and science. The first one is just feeling, a man of feeling, right? Maybe too many feelings. And I'm going to talk about that today because that's intricate as to why I became a doctor in education, right? Along with those feelings is caring, right? That's very important, the caring part. But look at what I've been trying to get you to do and what I'm trying to do myself. Heal. So let's say it this way. Healing, feeling, and caring is what this channel is about. Because we're talking about mental, physical, emotional health, right? And what I'm talking about is a community effect. The community I come from has been devastated by hurt, pain, and sadness. It's in our history, right? So many of us, when it comes to competing from the breath of life, we didn't do that because we came into life in crises. The crises of just being who we are. See, where is my community? What is my community? I have not found out what that means. See, and that's because there is no continuity, okay, no grounding, right? I can't walk from one place to another and consistently experience growth, development, right? And functionality when I separate from that contact interaction, right? So that's why I got so involved in community-based education. Because where is that community? And I'm not talking about race. I'm talking about when you start from behind, you're in a community. That community can be made up of all kinds of people. And you're all struggling together to do what? Compete. Compete for what? See, that's the issue. If you don't know what, then that's why we're talking about pain, pain, the sadness and the hurt. Because as you move forward, it begins to make sense to you. Certain people are treating you a certain way, and you get upset, but they're expecting you to compete. Not fight, compete. I mean, use your brain, body, and senses organizationally and compete with them. Why? Because it motivates them to do the next step. Now, that could be physical. That's why we're talking, because we have to organize this discussion about the brain, right? But I said the key to it is this. The brain is a social organ, right? And it lives through contact interaction. And that's what we're talking about. We talk about healing. Because if you weren't ready for that contact, right, then what did you do? You probably resisted the interaction. I mean, I work with so many children whom parents brought them to me because the kid was not able to make positive contact and interact with other people without the anger and frustration coming out. we're talking about kids as young as 2. And what I do with a 2-year-old is I sit that 2-year-old in the room with other kids between the ages of 2, let's say 10, so they can all see each other physically as they're receiving instruction from me. And all the instruction that I'm giving them is brain work. It's brain work. I'm dealing with the sense and receive path. That's what I'm dealing with constantly, sending instructions and observing how they respond to those instructions. I'm calculating the stress, the pressure, and the tension based upon how long it takes them to respond to that instruction, right? And I have this 2-year-old inside the room that's observing this. And they don't just sit in their chairs, they have to come up to the board and they have to respond socially, publicly, because that's preparing that kid for the classroom. That's what I'm talking about. When you're behind at the birth, I'm talking about the breath of life, and you have to catch up, right? And let's say you were hurt because you come from a single parented home, right? And so you don't have the resources that maybe other people that are competing with you have, right? So that's a workplace disadvantage, right? And then when you come home, you're searching for that other voice. No, this is the research. Community-based education is the research. Working with children and parents in crises on the front lines of the community. And these girls are searching for daddy's voice. Okay? And these boys are upset because they can't hear dad's voice. And that mother is inside the house trying to be her and he, right? Because they can't count on anybody else because they bring somebody else in. It's not about the children. It then becomes a sexual thing, a predatory thing, where the kids then have to take a distant place in the organization of focus, attention, okay? So what I'm talking about is community-based education. And what I've learned is you need a learning system so that people that are behind can just naturally begin to catch up. Just naturally do things that they automatically need to do in program environments, right? Like the classroom, like the workplace. So then it's a practice, is what I keep talking about. And I say, this is your place to practice because that's what it is. This is the Progressive Investing Institute of Focused Learning. And what I'm saying to you is you practice learning how to become more informed about what you need to do to get your kid online or to get yourself online so that you can begin to get rid of some of that sadness, get rid of some of that pain, and get rid of some of that hurt. See? And remember, there are a whole lot of us that are experiencing this. Okay? What I'm saying is, it's not okay to live with it. See? It's not okay to try to learn with it. It's not okay to try to think with it. It's not okay to try to respond with it because that's why they're treating your behavior. And that means your body. And they're disrespecting your brain because they can't see the connection between your displays physically, right? And what you are doing to show capacity, mental state, not state of mind, mental state, okay? Remember, I don't believe in that state of mind stuff. That's a mood. We're talking about the brain. We're talking about how the brain helps you make the right choice and decisions, and that's what we're talking about. You have to come to terms. And you have to stop making the wrong choices because it's easy. It's easy to not be competitive. It's easy to just go about the work of being around people who look and feel like you do and mark everybody else who's out there struggling to win. I'm not talking about a negative. I'm talking about when you turn around, you've been doing it too. You just been doing it through sadness, hurt, and pain. And that's what I'm saying. You got to stop. You got to get focused. Joy, pleasure. Oh, yeah, because that's what it's like. When you begin to learn how to live inside your body, I'm going to go back again. I'm telling you, we talking to the brain, right? When you begin to learn how to live inside your brain's body, right? That's a transformation of you, yourself. So the sense of feel for self in the brain transforms the accusation of you being just a behavior because now you're leading through your brain, right? And the reason why you know it, because your sense of self is connected to the brain. And your responses are now in the lead of the body. So now they got to respect who you are. They got to respect the emerging capacity that you're acquiring from living every day to become more informed about what it is you need to do to be successful. I don't define that for you. Your recovery is in understanding the fight. And the fight is from within, not outside. It's from within you. Community-based education, right? When I got to the kindergarten, I was not ready. I was not ready, right? And it wasn't because I was hurt. I got, there's 7 of us in my family. I was the youngest boy. I was loved. I was cared for. My mom and dad, I was smothered with love. But when I got to school, I was so spoiled having things my way that I couldn't accept the instruction. I couldn't accept the program because I was allowed to evolve naturally. See, I said I've always been smart. And many of us fall into this category, by the way, where we're so loved and cared for in the home, right? That when we get to school and they try to set us down and make us 1, 2, 3, organize our bodies the way that they want our bodies organized, rather than talk directly to our brains and tell them why they're trying to get us to do what they're trying to get us to do. The instruction component. Informing the brain so the sense and receive path knows that it's supposed to respond from within, not from the environment or external stimulus, the behavior model. No. Community-based education. I started right there, human learning. That's about the environment, right? No. You learn from the inside out. And when you treat a kid as though they have a brain, then you change the way you deliver that instruction because it has to have care in it. It has to have feelings in it. See? And then the healing part comes to life or fruition. Why? Because you're caring about the way the kid's going to feel the instruction. See? And if that kid is already hurt, that lifts them up. Why? Because you're showing respect for the fact that they can choose not to participate. So these discussions about community-based education, that's what I'm talking about. See, because I've never been a program person. See, I've always been a community person, right? So my field of choice has always been in the community. That's why my first step was social welfare, right? So my first degree is in social welfare, right? My second degree is in community-based corrections, not law enforcement, because problem solving. I say I come from a community, right? I'm not talking about paralysis analysis. We just talk about the problem, just talk about the crisis till everybody blue in the face and tired and just keep on meeting and keep on meeting and keep on meeting. No, stop. Problem solving, corrections. Let's correct this. No, start with you. Correct you first. That's what I'm talking about. Correct you first. Community-based corrections. It starts with self. It takes a community, right? It takes one to reach one. That's one learning how to turn around inside the exact community where the pain, the hurt, and the sadness It's historical, okay? There's not a one person that comes from the communities I came from who does not have a sense of feel for sadness, pain, and hurt. That separated their sense of feel for self because they didn't know how to deal with that anger, okay, from being mistreated. No, because you're not treated the same when you walk in the door. They don't look you in your eyes. They look at your body. They're not looking for your brain. They're looking at your body, what you look like. They're not talking about what you feel like. They're talking about, well, what I got to deal with. It's going to be physical. See? So we're not interpreted as being mental. We're interpreted as being physical. But that's the behavior training. See? So in community-based education, you got to understand why it's so easy for people to identify other people like me. See? Because we're so public with what we do. It's like we don't believe people can see us. Now, let me bring it back to the center because the brain's a social organ. Don't get it twisted. So that's our crises. We live through our brain because everything we do is social. It's about contact. It's about the interaction. See? And the problem is when you come through sadness, hurt, and pain, you separate. You don't cooperate no more. Why? Because it hurts. Why? Because you grew up hurt. And you're trying to defend yourself from any more hurt. Nobody's hurt me anymore. I'm not getting hurt no more. So you don't cooperate. Why? Because if you cooperate, you got to reinvent your sense of feel for self. See? And your brain. Because now you got to accept that information that hurts. And if you do that, it's not an easy thing to do because how are you going to acknowledge how far behind you actually are? See? Because when you cooperate, then your brain's participating in the situation. But that's what I'm saying to you. That's what the teaching is all about. Not paralysis analysis. Let's solve the problem. Let's learn how to cooperate. See? And the way I teach children, the 2-year-old, how to succeed in these contact situations, right, where they're hurt, is to study the person, right? And when you study the person, you look for signs of care. You don't give in just because someone simply shows you signs of care, just like you did when you were aggressive. You study long enough, right, to confirm the reality of that perspective on care. Is it real? And once you know the value of care through the practice of participating based upon signs of care, where now you can identify it. I'm talking about certain things we all do. So when you see it, you know it. When you feel it, you experience it, and that's the key. Because if you can experience it, that means you're performing. That means your brain is performing. Go talk to a psychologist. They'll tell you, here's your hurt. Here's the wall. Act through the wall and watch your brain light up because you're performing. You're not saying you're not hurt. You're not saying that you're giving in. You're saying, I want to live without so much baggage. So I'm going to act like I agree with you. I'm talking about a 2-year-old. And as that 2-year-old is learning how to act through the hurt, the brain is interacting through your sense of feel for self. Now you're connected, right? So now you know what's happening, huh? Those feelings of emotion are now being met by thought and reflection. See? And the learning keeps going because that's just the first step towards reducing the effect of emotion on you that's been preventing you from sensing and receiving instructions from other people because you're saying, I'm not letting you in, right? So who's leading you? So I'm not telling you to go away from that. I'm saying to you, the brain's body learning system is what? Self in the lead, because the brain is connected. So the body falls in line. Let me say it the right way, the way that it's written inside the literature, right? A sense of feel for self and the brain in the lead of the body. That's not behaviorism, that's human system science. Because what are you doing? You're organizing brain, body, and sense events. So when you cooperate, right, and you're studying, you become mental. And as you become mental, right, the brain has this forward feed loop I always talk about. When you free that space, the brain's already sending thought to combat the negative thinking you've been moving through because you're cooperating and it's on your terms because you're learning how to cooperate based on signs of care, right? So now you know when you have that signs of care, right? It means thought. Thought is coming, see? And thought is coming through reflection because you don't forget you're trying to dump that negative energy so that reflection has new feelings of thought, intuitive thought, subconscious. You didn't know it was there. But the brain's been waiting for the opportunity to inform you, okay, on how to solve this crisis from the inside out. See, not from the outside in, not boggling you down with all this. I mean, I'm saying to you, go to other people. They want to bog you down with all the other stuff and then say, work with me. No, let's get it now. Let's get it up front. Let's start solving the problem from step one. Let's start reducing the effect of the crises right now. Study it. 3 things: self-help, self-research, self-discovery. Bam! See, take off. Why? Because you're working through your sense of feel for self in the brain to heal your sense of receive path function. Your sense of receive path functions. That's not neuroscience. That's human system science. That's from hands-on work with children and parents in crises and their teachers, health and human service professionals that came into the environment as support services and didn't have a clue as to how to address these families. And I had to educate them on the front lines. Yeah, that's why I'm not very well liked. But it's not about being liked. It's about solving the crises of disrespect. Many kids, many adults out there are feeling so disrespected because they came along through a progressive capitalistic culture, right? That ignores the fact that all this baggage comes from, right? The trickle down, the trickle down. Everybody, well, where do I fit in? The trickle down and the watering down so that everybody don't get the same thing. Although you talk about universal education, everybody don't get the same thing. Everybody don't get the same thing. See? And that's what I'm talking about. You need a system that from day one starts creating change in your behavior. In your behavior. So that when people look at you and they say, you ain't changed, right? But you ain't looking at me. You're still thinking about my body. Right? Right? You just now, social organ, body, it's a social organ, right? But that's not your brain. See? That's what I'm saying to you. See? So how do they define your brain? They define your brain by the way you move through the contact to interact with them and show signs of cooperation, because they're showing signs of cooperation that you can move through. And as you move through that cooperation, right, what are you doing? Now you are living through the way you come to think, right? And that forward feed is right there, creating a knowledge base. So it validates what I said when you're doing the self-research. It validates the accumulation of knowledge about what signs of care really is, right? And you can feel it. No, because this kid, I'm going to talk about another kid, 9 years old, 9 years old, who was abused as a child. Dad beat him up, okay? But come on, just beat him up. But so as this kid reached me, nobody could talk to him. An A student, mind you, straight academic, right? Couldn't talk to him, couldn't touch him, couldn't smile at him, none of that. He wasn't having that. Nobody's hurt me anymore, okay? Where is my community? That's my community. I can't deny it. I came from that community. I wasn't abused or nothing like that. That's not what I'm saying, but it was the inverse because I resisted school. So where did that put me? In there with the children who are the most disadvantaged and hurt. See? That's why I fit it in. I was smart, right? It was easy for me to form a gang. But let me get back to him, see? Because he was in crises. Why? Because he's an A student, but he can't progress socially because of his behavior. And then he can't really progress academically because of his behavior. So what did I teach him? I taught him about his action, the action of studying another person's performance. See? And inside the other person's performance, right, is what? Is what? Their attitude, their personality, their character. See? Those three very valuable things. And more importantly, their actual behavior. No. And how did I do this? I taught the kid how to study the body and understand that you're looking for the response. And the response that he was accustomed to was aggression because he's attacking you. And I teach the teacher not to respond to the feelings of hurt that are aimed to hurt you. And instead, stand firm in your position and show no feelings of anger or anxiety or, let's go back, adults, frustration, disappointment. Teachers get frustrated and disappointed because this kid is messing up the opportunity to excel with them in the lead. That's a better way of saying it. See? So what I'm saying to you is, teaching him this, he then began to test it. And as he tested it, he learned because he smiled. As people he was testing it on over and over and over again continued not to display frustration and disappointment. And it taught him there are other kinds of people in this world, right? That if you give them a chance through understanding how they make contact and try to interact with you, right? Through signs of care, cooperation. That then is the information that you can confirm. And as you move through them, right? Now he's learned how to interact. So he has a knowledge base to support what he's trying to do. So this is the thing about Progressive Institute for Learning. Anybody you talk to that's come from the Progressive Institute for Learning that's received 1 hour of classes never has to come back because it's about solving the problem now. And I'm saying to you, most of my students are full when they leave that room. of things they have to go practice to improve their sense and receive past functions. All tests, 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 tests. Home, school, neighborhood, workplace. Test, 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 test. Science, right? Because science has to have a methodology that can be validated, confirmed, and repeated over and over and over and over again. See, so when you pick up one of my books, you'll see it, and as you continue to read through it, and you see, and you go through it, you practice, you see, you confirm, you repeat, you go back, you validate, you're in there. See, now I teach children this too. See, that's why I wanted to bring up the 2-year-old and 9-year-old, because you see, pain and suffering is embedded, ingrained in the breath of life. So when you think about yourself right now, and you say, well, what am I going to do? I'm like 30 years old. You can stop the pain from spreading. It starts with you. Okay? Learn about your sense of feel for self. Wait a minute. No, you don't know that. Your sense of feel for self is what's disconnected because you don't want to have feelings. You don't want to feel it. So you avoid the sense of feel. So the self is in there, but it's not connected. So you go to a neuroscientist, that's what he's going to tell you. The brain has to be connected because those synapses, right, are premised upon moving through contact and interaction. Your sense of feel for self, and I'm not a neuroscientist, I am a community-based educator who uses education and science, right, to address human problems. I want to make that clear. I don't want to be disrespectful. I want to be respected for the work I do as a community-based educator who has studied sciences, right, who took the time to actually go to school. I'm talking about hours and hours in the library where others may laugh. I didn't worry about graduating. I worried about getting into the literature, immersing myself in the literature to discover who and what I am and what was really going on inside of me. Because if you're smart, you can tell I've never been to prison, never been to jail. No. But I lived in those environments because my brain has always been connected to my sense of feel for self. I feel everything. You walk, I feel it. I feel it. I'm not afraid to feel things. I'm not afraid to cry. No, I'm not afraid of that. See? But go talk to people that have come across me. He's the toughest guy I've ever met. Don't mess with him. See? No, I'm just trying to get you to understand. It's not about violence. It's about learning how to move through the emotional effect of you being in crises. I'm talking about domestic violence. I'm talking about any types of aggression. Is dealt with through understanding your sense of feel for self, talking to the brain, understanding you're not crazy. The brain's a social organ. You talk to the brain talks back, it talks back whether you know it or not, whether you want to realize it or not. But when you realize it, you talk back, whether you talk back through positive energy. See, it makes sense because this is all about understanding the flow of energy, action, and feelings through your human system, brain, body, and sense events. And then beginning to understand how to manage, control, and focus it. You see? The brain's body learning system I've been talking about. It's real. But remember what I'm saying to you. See, it may not appeal to academians because academians want to go with the book stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that, but who can relate to that? No, I'm saying to you, most of us are hurt at birth. So by the time we get to them, hey, we prime specimens for the research part. Yeah, you'll be right in the room. They'll stick stuff to you and do things to you. Because you are the specimen, so that the people who least need that type of stuff, who came up and just got hurt probably around when they were, 20, 25, or have children who are moving through the crisis because they then are delivering the crisis inside the home. So they're trying to save their kid. Yeah, makes sense. But what about these people who can't get access to real help? See, that's why the brain's body learning system starts with self-help. See, the neuroscientists can respect that because what am I saying? Self-help. Self-help about what? Learning what's inside of you. Sense, receive, energy, action, feelings, emotion, thought, reflection. I can keep going on. But what is the neuroscientist trying to help you do? Organize that. See? So if I'm teaching you without giving you a drug or without programming you how to go through specific steps, right? Give an example. I talked to you about this last week. Sense, feel, focus. I left it there. But that's a lifelong self-discovery issue because you sense for the rest of your life. You feel for the rest of your life. You have to focus for the rest of your life. So when you're practicing, you're trying to learn how to sustain it. See? So when you talk to neuroscientists, he's talking about, well, what is focus? But he's talking about computer science. Well, when we did this research on the brain and we looked at the brain and we saw how it was responding to these types of, and we watched the chemicals flow through the system. Wow, stop. Self-research. See, self-research. When you wake up in the morning, you open your eyes. Or you even got to open up your eyes. You wake up, you can feel the environment. That's sense. See? And then when you make the move, you're trying to do what? The next step is feel. Feel the noises, sounds, signs, symbols in your environment. Anything change yet? Right? Now focus, because you're already in it. Sense, you already feeling, right? Focus. See? Practice it every single day. They're simple words, but the words have action, right? Energy, action, feelings. Now you're ready. So what am I saying to you? No, if you can't do it, now you go see a shrink. I don't mean it that way. Physical therapist, that's the light. But see, in our community, we didn't like that word. And everybody knows that. We would rarely go see a psychologist for anything. We'd rather fall on our swords. That's what I'm talking about. That's why my community is so far behind, because self-help don't come to them, see? Because they can't find the help. And you need help to get self-help. But self-help comes from other people being willing to interact with you and share certain levels of information without attacking your inner sense of feel for self to inform your brain. And we don't get that, see? And that's partly because, hey, what I say about when we first started this conversation, our behaviors are wild. So therefore, the interpretations of us are like, woo. And when you calm down, it's unbelievable. See? It's unbelievable. I can go on. Let's stay focused. So the brain is a social organ, right? We practice talking to the brain and not the body, right? Because the body don't talk back. When the body talks back, we don't like it. The body is beating you up, right? You're getting cursed out. Right? The body reacts. That's the reaction. See? No. Go back to the behavior platform like I told you last week. Go do the research, human learning. No. The stimulus, reaction, response. See? It's your sense of feel for self and the brain that allows you to catch up to a reaction or response because of a state of mood that you're locked in, a way of living, learning, thinking, and responding that everybody's trying to change. And it can only be changed if you involve the brain in the front, because the energy, action, and feelings, right, move through the sense receive path and are blocked. So that forward feed cannot get through because you got a mood state. And the mood state is, I ain't letting you in. Ain't nobody hurt me no more. I'm not getting hurt like that. No, I'm delivering the hurt now. That's the behavior. I'm delivering the hurt now. Watch this. Oh, you caught in the crises of not understanding how to inform your brain, right? Because you were behind. And by the time you caught on, right, you're an adult. And now you're okay with trying to search for help. Yeah, now you're going through all these classes and you're doing all this stuff, but the reality is, yes, you got to just kiss butt. Why? Because that's how far behind you really were. And to catch up, you need that interaction. And that's capitalism. Pay for it all over again. Yeah, because all of us missed that free and appropriate schooling where all this is supposed to get done. See? Where you're supposed to learn how to live in a home, learn how to learn at school, learn how to think in a neighborhood, learn how to respond in a workplace. It's just that simple. Capitalism. What's the purpose of capitalism? Labor. Utilization of labor. To do what? Okay, so if you're not ready yet, right? You're not ready for the workforce. If you're not ready for the workforce, right? What do you do with yourself? If you're in my community, what do? You go to prison. What do? You make babies. What do? You fall further behind. Why are you falling further behind? Because what else am I supposed to do? I'm locked out. No, you're locked out. Why are you locked out? I'm locked out because, wow, man, I just can't figure it out. So why I figure it out? I got all these other people that are just like me. Well, I take advantage of them. That's capitalism. I got to get my money any way I can. Wait a minute. Stop the spread. Stop the spread of pain. Stop the spread of hurt. No, stop. Stop spreading sadness. Stop killing your own people. Stop. Stop. And then you're okay because now you done got your foot in the door. No, because now you're a grown person. I'm going back to the kid now, whose mother and father is way up there now making real money, but they grown. They grown now. And they act like, yeah, we didn't do it. We didn't do it. Wasn't our fault. Just happened. Been bad all his life. Been like that all her life. No. The home has to be a safe place to live. The school has to be a safe place to learn. The neighborhood has to be a safe place to think. The workplace has to be a safe place to respond. So when you're moving through all that hurt, right, you're supposed to be learning how to move through that contact. The brain is a social organ. Learning at school how to receive that interaction from that teacher, from that principal, from that school personnel, right? And moving through the church and other social organizations inside the neighborhood, that includes neighbors, right? Who's supposed to lead you to think about what? The future. That's where you learn your future. Neighbors, trying to make sure you're on track, trying to make sure you're being social and academic. Let me give it to you a different way. This week, you go back to the last table saying the same thing. Nothing's changed. It's about solving problems. Community-based education is about solving problems. No, the junior college came from community-based knowledge bases that I'm talking through. They're the last chance. That's why I'm a community-based educator, because I represent a community that is so far behind, right? Only a few of us get to smile. And the rest of us are upset because it's not us. See? And so those that can smile, they like trying to figure out, well, why everybody hating on me? All I did was put up the work, and they probably did. But you figured it out. And the rest of us, yeah, we figured it out. I mean, I'm 60 now, just not figured it out, just got a good job. Damn, you return when you return. No, that's the real. You just now got a good job where it's paying you maybe $60,000 a year, but you're 60 years old, right? So what you supposed to do with that? What what are your grandchildren saying to you? Because you're spreading that fear, right? Now, what are your kids saying? What took you so long, Dad? What took you so long to catch up? The hurt, the pain, the sadness, the spread of it, generation to generation. Now, this is what we're dealing with. See? So the brain's body learning system, day one, come on in. Let's learn how to stop the pain, sadness, and hurt. Let's begin to formally address this crisis. See? And stop shooting each other. I mean, see, there you go. There you go. Because it's mental illness, right? And what are we talking about? Brain, body, sense events, mental, physical, emotional care. Okay, that you're not getting, or you perceive yourself as not getting, and you can't find it because you're disconnected from your sense of feel for self and the brain. You're supposed to care. See, you're supposed to know how to care. And when you don't get care, you're supposed to know how to move through the anxiety, through acting, and then surround yourself with positive energy. See, to support the fact, yes, it's hard out here. It's hard out here, but it's safe in here. See? And who's doing the work? You are, right? Right? So let's bring it home. Let's bring it home. So last 30 years, I'm going to give you my literature tree. That's what I've been doing. I published 4 other books. And inside those books is the research that got me here. And so the brain's body is a reflection. It's a reflection on all the children, all the parents, all the teachers, all the people that I have had to work through, come in contact with, and written reports through, right? And developed interventions. So you pick up a book, there's an intervention in it. It's not paralysis analysis where you're just looking at the problem anecdotally and you're trying to just, okay, what I'm going to talk, my next book is about the problem. My next book about the problem. No, you pick up the book, it's solving the problem from a community-based perspective, because that's where the problem is. See, the problem's not in education, the problem's in the community. You got to get through the community to become educated. That's what I just now said. That's why a lot of us get ready to go back to school when we're adults, right? Because, and what are we saying? Community didn't work so well for me, but I know I need education. Okay, it's not a free school. It's not a free education. Okay, so it depends on where you're coming from. Okay, but at the end of the day, you got to learn how to live. You got to learn how to learn. You got to learn how to think. You got to learn how to respond. See, and so you go back to college. Okay? And then what's the goal? Get me a better job. Get me a real job. See, and that real job, what does it look like? What's it going to look like? After you get through, like, go back and read Eli Coates. I talked about him last time. Yeah, he's an author I picked him up and I couldn't put him back down. Why? Because he's talking about the glass ceiling from a self-destructive perspective where you live in a community and the community itself will not allow other people to rise up intellectually. That's been our problem. That's why we got to move away. That's why we got to run. That's why we got to hide. See? That's why we got to separate. That's why we got to divide. Our sense of feel for self in the brain. How are we going to survive if we're not supposed to feel things? So you're carrying all that pain. You're carrying all that pain. You can't feel it because you don't want to feel it, because if you feel it, you think you're going to fall out. No, you're not going to fall out. You're not going to fall out. You're going to begin to heal. And you don't run from it. See? You go through the practice that I'm talking about, and as you're going through the practice, each step you make, you feel it. You feel it. You feel it moving through you. Energy, action, feelings. Go talk to a neuroscientist. If you don't believe me, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm not trying to program you. I'm trying to give you outlets that you can test. See? And when you get to the medical people, they will tell you, wow, you're doing pretty well. See? Because that's what this drug's supposed to do. See? And so where are most of us at? Searching for what? And what we're using? Drug. To do what? That's what the brain. Manipulate the brain. Make us feel better. Okay? Stop. 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 Let's solve the problem. Okay? Am I being real? This is brain talk. Now, I've always been this way. I've always talked to the brain, never the body. Okay? Because the body don't do nothing but hurt people. And if the brain is not in the lead, that's all the body represents is physicality. When the brain is in the lead, it's about being mental. So I go back to Ronald. Ronald was still a tough kid, but he didn't have to be physical. All he had to do was be mental. Why? Because when you're mental, the physical becomes more reflective, right? And you don't forget. You don't forget. And that's what pulls you together, because reflection is a synthesis of those experiences from that knowledge base that you built. That's what serves you when you build that knowledge base. So when you reflect, all that intuitive data that you sent forward, right, is being stored along with the way the response, the behavior response was impacted, affected, or influenced. You see? So these are the words that I'm talking through. And these same words are universally used in continuity with what we're talking about. See? So I'm not programming. It's about process. You have a human learning system. The brain is a social organ. You got to learn how to learn to use it. That's what we're talking about, the brain's body learning system. Step 2, help, self-help. Why? When you deal with self-help, it's because you want to learn how to move through the contact to interact, right? And the most critical boundary is cooperation. And I'm going to show you why. Because if you can't cooperate, there's no participation. We're not talking about with them, we're talking with you. You got to work with your brain. If you don't cooperate, then your brain don't get to participate. Why? Because you're not cooperating. And the brain has a circulatory system that has to move information through the human system. Brain, body, sense, systems. The knowledge base. And that's why you get the relief, because you're building that knowledge base. It hurts, but you're building an influence from within yourself. So when I talk to you about the inner to the outer, that's your inner sense of feel, now able to respond because you created a feedback loop to the sense path, right? Where now you're reading and interpreting the physics. Go back to the 2-year-old. That's what I was teaching her. Go back to the 9-year-old. That's what I was teaching him. When that feedback comes, it's the real deal. You're reading the external environment through inner sense of feel for self. Okay, so now this kid has feelings because you're teaching him how to feel things. See? And even if he doesn't, I'm talking about, I work with those kids too, and those two where you teach them how to act as though they can't, but to read the people and know what feelings look like so that you can mimic them, not program, act through them. See? And when you read the feedback, calm down, collect, watch your confidence build, because you're learning how to respond from the inside out, and you're reading your positive feedback or your negative feedback, but you're making better choices and decisions. The brain's body learning system. See? I can't say it enough. Self-research. Self-research. on how you live, on how you learn, on how you think, on how you respond. Think about that. Self-research, the breath of life. How do I live? That's the search from the breath of life. You sense, you feel, you focus to live. Okay? Okay. Now, if you got a clue, we're talking about catching up, right? If you got a clue, the brain's a social organ. It lives through the contact. It learns through the interaction. You see? So from the breath of life on, you sense, the feel, the focus, how you live, how you learn, how you think, how you respond. Now practice that because we're talking about the infancy stage. And if you're practicing where you are right now, that's a growth cycle. That's a brain connection. And if you can't do it, you go get help. But that's natural learning. You learn how to live, okay, from the inside out. So self-research is studying how it makes you feel to try to live through making better choices and decisions. How to learn through making better choices and decisions. How to think through making better choices and decisions. How to respond by making better choices and decisions. A sense and receive path, that's the function. You got a choice. See, go back to mens rea. You got a choice. You have a brain. See? And we can identify the brain. So even though they treated you for your behavior and said, well, that brain don't work, you still got punished as though you have one. So keep it real. Keep it very real. See? Because I'm talking about saving lives. Save Our Youth is about saving lives. That's the nonprofit. Save Our Youth, Next Generations. This is what I'm talking about. It's what I talk to kids about. It's what I talk to my 2-year-old about. See? And I talk to a 12-year-old working with that 2-year-old, and I'm talking about your human system wants to help that baby, save that baby's life. I talk like that. See, it's not about religion. It's about spirituality. That child has a spirit that's hurt. How do you heal that child's spirit? You get another child to deliver help. And that child's help is not like you deliver it, but it's where that 2-year-old can receive it, even if it's harsh. It's coming from that child. And that child awakens that other child's sense of feel for self, not like you or me can do. And so then that 12-year-old turns around and they now are revitalized because in that they talk to their own brain and the brain talked them through the contact, the interaction with the 2-year-old. See? So here's your model program, right? And here's your receiver of the program, the kid's body, and the child observing the kid's body and trying to learn, are you a threat or are you a friend? Or do you care? See? No, it's about science. Education is science. Community-based education. I'm coming to an end now. So, the last one, self-discovery. Self-discovery. I've been talking to you, right? 3 things we started with, right? Healing, filling, and caring. So when do you figure those things out? See? Because we're all on the clock. We all have a timeline. See? And so we're sad, we're hurt, and we're in pain. We have a timeline to heal before it just doesn't matter. See, many of us are running out of that time. So now we just out there hurting people. I'm talking about all the shootings. I'm saying no. I'm saying giving up to the voices, the noises, the sounds, right? Being misled, right? And not understanding how to get within your sense of feel for self, your spirit and the brain, and begin to make amends for how you feel, understanding what you did wrong and how you can improve yourself. what you can do that changes the spread of sadness, hurt, pain. That's healing time. Self-healing through self-discovery. When you begin to realize the purpose of your brain. The brain is inside the body to help you live, learn, think, and respond as you move through home, school, neighborhood, workplace networks made by other people to slow you down. Okay? Come from my community. See? Keeping it real. And what you got to do before you run out of your eligibility, I'm talking about kids 0 to 25, get in with the brains body learning system, self-correction. No, through first hand contact interaction as you move through the front line. You got a broken home, but you still want to heal. You don't have to heal right now. You just need the information right now. The brain does the rest. See? Because as you build that reflection, you open up that sense and receive path to learn how to defend yourself, your sense of self in the brain, right? That knowledge base is being created. So it doesn't have to be me. This sets you up for that other healer, that other person who's working as a healer to heal your sense of receive path. So that you can then begin to call or reflect, call to order and reflect upon how you sense, feel, and focus to perform on the highest stage, the highest level, right? And then you can explain it. How did you recover your family? How did you recover yourself? How did you recover your best friend? You can explain it. I put in the work. What that mean? That means that I had to get within myself and began to realize the sadness that was in me, how that hurt was destroying me, right? And more importantly, I had to come to terms with the fact that I am an emotional person, that I do have emotion, even though I don't think it is emotion. See? Because the way that I was interpreting it, it wasn't emotion, it was a defense. I was just defending myself. See? And so what they saw, what I've been accused of is only because of what they think they saw. But they're not inside me. But neither are you. If you're not connected, we're talking about telepathy. I'm closing now, telepathy. Sense of feel for self meets the brain. You meet and interact with your own brain. And when you cooperate, you begin to realize the mental side of your physicality. See? And those two things, the brain and the body, combats the emotion. See? Because the body will not be used as a trigger. See? And the brain has the resources, connect your sense of feel for self to stay connected to your sense, feel, and focus process cycle. See? This is level one. This is only level one. We're going to stay right here. Don't forget to subscribe. I want to thank you once more for attending the channel. This is Dr. Slaton Live, the brain's body, the ultimate experience. Let me tell you what that means. As you begin to test this stuff, your experience change. You'll light up. Because you're going to say, what took me so long? No. What took me so long to learn how to deal with myself? So it just says self-help. How do I heal me? See? No, wait a minute. I'm not, no. Then it starts to make sense to you. When you go to church, it makes sense to you now. See? You know what you're going to church for. See? See? And that blockage, it's not fake. You know, a lot of people go to church, they turn around, Monday through Friday, they're doing all this other stuff. Now I'm talking about reporting now. I've interviewed and dealt with many ministers and churches and so forth and so on. Yes, 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 yes. I'm talking about going to church on Sunday, Thursday, whatever those, and then the rest of the time you're just being bad. Or you're spreading hurt and pain through innuendos and so forth. So stop it. Stop it. Healing time. Healing time. Connect your sense of feel for self. Character. The brain's a social organ. Character is a social effect. It's a social phenomenon. See? Just like personality. The brain's a social organ. It lights up. Look at your entertainers. Talk to them. Why it's so hard? Because they have feelings. And they know their songs are not helping to heal. See? And it's hurting. See? Because who has to heal? You do. From the inside to the outside. Now when you sing, the joy comes out. Because you're healing yourself through your music, through your work. And now you're spreading joy and happiness. That's how simple it is. When you began to practice learning how to live inside your brain's body. Dr. Christopher, thank you for joining me. Please, please test this, test this, test this. Please test it.